Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. Happy Monday. It is Monday on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. I am your host, Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. I am so excited for today. This is the day the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. We are going into a part 2 of our series that we started on last week. We started under the series of cash and money management. And last week, we started talking about negotiating contracts with vendors and how imperative it is that we consider some various key points and topics prior to signing your name on the line. And so join us today as we continue part 2 and close out our conversation on vendor contract negotiating good deals. Now let's go forward with our intro, and we're glad, like and share, and we're glad to have you with us today.
Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV's church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Clovis, special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Money Mondays. I am your host, Executive Pastor Tawana Grant. I am excited today as we continue in our discussion from last Monday as we talked about negotiating good vendor contracts and some of the things that we need to consider. This is so imperative and so important. The last thing you want to do is sign your name into a contract and not really understand the context, right? How do I operate in a capacity with now a partner? A vendor contract that you have aligned partnership where they are now your partner. They're just not a third party that you're engaging with. They're offering a certain service to your business. They are now a partner in the exchange of whatever you're providing, whether you have a facility and they are now providing some service to you to ensure this the facility is safe. If you're a product merchant, if you're an innovator, an entrepreneur, and you have a product that you are putting out to the public and you're servicing that product, they have now become a part of your end-to-end workflow, your end-to-end operation. And so you want to make sure before you sign on the dotted line that you have considered some key components in the contract, key components in the relationship. Oh my goodness, don't you know you now have a relationship that could hopefully expand for years, even as you go into your new phase, a new phase of your business, even as you morph and as you go to another evolution. We want to encourage you today that as you consider it, that you look at the contract as a point of reference, right? Of where you're going. I want to make sure that the strategy in the contract is aligned to my strategy for my business. And so good afternoon, Bianca Edwards. Good afternoon, Lady Virgo. We're so glad to have you with us on Monday Mondays today. And so we're going to go right back into it. We started some of the conversation last week, and I'll tell you, it was so good that I didn't get through all of my points that I wanted to cover. And I was like, I want to make sure that I get a lot of the context out, because while you may not need to consider every piece of it, I found out some of the information that I received last year. I may just be using it this year, but I've had an opportunity to lock down on it. I had an opportunity to meditate on it. I've had it in my notes, as they like to say, I had it in my back pocket so that when I needed it, I could pull it out and I could use that information. And so I want to continue in our discussion from last week. We talked about building a good communication with your vendor, how you want to set up a protocol of statuses and updates. How do I get in touch with you when I have an emergency? You want to have all of that in clear. We really talked about a good part of the message on last week in our conversation was to make sure that you eliminate a lot of gray. That's how we get into a lot of misunderstandings when we're operating with other vendors, we're operating with other partners or pastors or ministries or whatever we have, where there's a collaborative effort, is that we have so much gray so that it's left up to interpretation. And what you may have understood, they may have understood something differently. And so that's what the project of having a contract developed and written, it is a means of an understanding between both parties. And so you want to make sure, again, that communication is a very, very, very valuable part of your contract and negotiating with your vendor, because how they posture themselves, how they interact, how they relate to one vendor may be okay for that particular partner and that particular vendor, but it may not work for you. And so that's why it's so important that even as you evaluate, who am I going to engage with? Some of the things you want to do is to make sure that you initiate and communicate your expectations on communicating, your expectations on the level and the timing, the SLA, service level agreement, on how frequent and how often and at what criticality. We talked about that too. Listen, everything can't be a priority. And so you need to be able to facilitate and communicate what is considered a priority for your business. And what does a SLA, a service level agreement for a priority one, mean to you? Because some people, for a priority, as long as you get back to me today, I'm good. But in your business, in your lane, that might be a 4-hour. It may be 1 hour. And you need to be very clear about that, because every contract is subject to the parties who are involved. And so just the way you created one with another can be used as a tool, can be used as a model, but it is not the final draft. And so you have to consider what you're orchestrating in this particular contract. The other thing we talked about just a little bit is making sure you research your pricing, right? You don't want to have a single threaded vendor where they have the monopoly. So you want to make sure that you have evaluated the plane, evaluated all those who are playing in the field with you, operate from a capacity of knowledge, right? And so we want to make sure that we understand. In business, we have to be men, and all you're getting, get an understanding. We want to make sure that we understand what is the playing field out here. What is the normal pricing for this type of product or this type of service? What is a baseline? Where do I start from? And you get that by doing your research. Listen, do your homework. Oh my goodness. Do your homework. If you're going into business, evaluate so that you can make a decision from a posture of knowledge and not a whim or not a wish or not a hope for. Or not, yes, we have faith. Without faith, it's impossible to believe God. So you got to have faith in it, but you got to have some wisdom and some knowledge to back it up. You need foundation. And so that's why we are encouraging you that you do your necessary research so that you're ready to operate from a lane of understanding and confidence. And that is the thing that research gives you. It gives you confidence in the numbers that you're projecting. It gives you confidence in the numbers that you're quoting to your vendor that you're willing to pay because you research your market and you want to be fair. I always say this, it's a very big difference because people say, oh, you have to treat everybody equal. Yes, I want to treat everybody fair because you can't have equity when you're doing different things. It's the same thing in the world. We say you can't put apples and oranges together and think they're going to be the same. Somebody at a higher quality level, someone who operates from a higher level of experience is going to often ask for more money. And so when you're evaluating your vendors and you're looking at your pricing, you have to think from that perspective. You have to think from the perspective of what kind of experience do they have? How long have they been in the business? What is their reputation? How well have they operated in their lane? How well have we facilitated our engagement in connection? Because trust me, I've had this even my own self. That discerning spirit comes up and I say, I don't think this is going to work well. And so sometimes you have to make a decision even right then. No, we're not going to go any further because I can recognize you and I are not going to be able to communicate well. I can already see that from our initial conversation. And that's why I always say it's very important. Don't just receive something through online. I know we're in the 21st century. I know having things electronic and online is very wonderful. I appreciate it because it makes things more efficient, more effective. But that is not the only way that you need to evaluate and communicating with your partner. You need to have a sit down. You need to see, who am I working with? I need to talk to you. Even if it's virtual, even if they're operating from another city or another country, I need to see somebody. I was about to initiate into another project with an organization. And just in my trying to reach them to get information, just in my trying to facilitate communication, everything was online. I couldn't reach a human being. They kept telling me, no, you need to text, or no, you need to send an email. No, we don't have, there was no way for me to reach a body. And I said, this doesn't work for me. If it was a different type of engagement that I was doing where it doesn't matter, I don't have to see you, I don't need to know, but this was a very personal type venture that I was going to go in, and I need to see a human being. I need to be able to talk to somebody. I need to be able to reach somebody because this is very important to me. And so I shut it down. And be okay to make that kind of decision when you're researching and getting your information. Don't be so quick. The Bible says, Lord have mercy, don't operate so that we're so hasty to move into things so quick that we don't take the time to let things sit and discern. See if this is going to work for you. Align it to your strategy. Align it to the things that you plan to do. Does this work for me? Is this on purpose? Does this match the purpose that I have designed, that has been given to me to push this forward? And if it doesn't, be okay to say no. No is an answer. And you don't have to give any explanation. Do you know that? You don't have to give an explanation. No, that don't fit well, man. No, that doesn't sit well. No, I have my spiritual ears open and I'm listening. And so that doesn't sit well with me. I need to do a little bit more evaluation so that I feel more comfortable in that. Because when you're signing contracts, when you're signing your name to things, you can't do that hastily. And a lot of times what the enemy will do is put us in a position where we feel like we don't have any choices. We always have a choice. Even when your choice is to do nothing, that is still a choice. And so sometimes we have to wait until we have a release to move in it. And so I want to encourage you. That it's so important that you do your research, that you understand about how you go about doing it. We had a question here about one of the important steps is about getting good credit. That's very important. Sometimes even in your own personal business, as you're evaluating your business and where you are and your ability to add in a new venture with a business partner, where's your credit is very important because you might need more funding, right? You might need a line of credit so that you can officiate the work with this particular vendor. They may even do credit checks. They may want to evaluate your history, just like you're looking at them, right? Even as you're looking at the vendor and you're evaluating their history. Some of the things you definitely want to do is make sure, we talked about this in previous sessions, talked about budgeting. We talked about ensuring that you are maximizing your gap, meaning evaluating the revenue that you have coming in against the expenses and operating costs that you have going out, and creating a higher gap, because then you can use the money in between to build efficiency, we talked about buying equipment. Some of the things that you do with that residual funding is not just play money to sit around. How do I maximize the money so it is working for me even when I'm asleep? That's the kind of mindset that you have to have as a business owner. How do I operate and have things going in such a capacity that I don't always have to be the one that's facilitating, that the business is operating even without me, that I am the strategist, that I'm the innovator, that I'm the entrepreneur, and I have it operating in such a capacity, in such a fashion that it moves swiftly and smoothly just by me oversight. Okay. And so one of the things you certainly do in getting your credit straightened is to ensure, one, pull your credit point. Because I found this in many cases when I talk to others and mentor others, there are things on their credit report that they have not even viewed or assessed. Pull your credit report. We talked about that in several sessions prior, that pull your credit report. Make sure the information on there is accurate and correct. If not, correct that. Because those are some easy things that you can do. One of the next things, which mentioned Lady Virgo, is that you can pay your bills on time. I'm very sure, very correct. Paying on time shows a behavior pattern. I know sometimes people talk about generational curses. I want to tell you, a lot of that is generational poor behavior. It's behavior, right? It's how we act. It's what we've been tooled and trained. And therefore, because it's not giving good results, if you're doing the same thing, it's not going to give good results for you either. And so it's a change of a mindset. Letting that mind be in us that was also in Christ. How do I change? Transformation certainly has to happen when you pivot from being a person who earns a check to being a person who paychecks. Yes, I can tell you, it's a total different mindset. When you are not just the employee, but you are the business owner. When you're writing salaries, when you're paying others, when you're paying your vendors, you must operate different. You must understand that money is a seed and it's to be used for purpose. I believe that. Like the scripture says, he gives seed to the soil. He gives seed to those who do things in purpose, who plant in good ground. And so that is so important, that even as you operate in your business, to know about your money. Where are you spending your money? How is it coming in? How do you increase revenue? Right? I don't ever want to lose sight of that. Sometimes we have business and it's flowing well, but we don't think about what could be happening next. You need to always have an eyesight. There are points in our lives when we can have a blind spot. And sometimes what happens is when we have an area that we're doing very well in it, and then we're not operating to evaluate areas that we're not. We want to make sure we're always looking at things that are not operating in its appropriate capacity, and then how can we refine that to do so? Okay, so the next thing again about getting into negotiating vendor contracts is to make sure that you learn about them. You don't want to go into business signing and negotiating a good contract with somebody who's unfamiliar. And it doesn't mean that you had a long history with this organization or this person or this business, but you've done your research enough to know what is their brand. What type of image do they present? And then do they facilitate in that capacity? Because a lot of times we're all very guilty. We'll look at people on the outside and we say, oh, that business is doing so well, but we don't know the undercurrent. We don't know what's happening underneath the covers. We don't know how are they running their business? How do they help others in the capacity of being a vendor related to another organization? How do they operate well? Do they stay well informed? Do they demonstrate a partnership type posture that when you win, I win? That's the kind of partnership that you want to look for. Somebody who wants to win and want you to win too. That they know that I am reliant on your ability and your capacity to grow, because when you grow, I grow. When you maintain, I am maintained, because we have that kind of integrated relationship. And so really and truly, you want to take an opportunity to demonstrate that while you are a net new business, or while you're getting started, or while you are still in your portion of growth, you are a knowledgeable business owner. You're a business owner who comes with a set and smart enough to understand what partnership looks like and feels like. Think about that. Take a moment when you sit down, take a moment and write down, what does a partnership look and feel like to you? Because we're talking about today negotiating good contracts, negotiating, and you're the person who is negotiating. It's for your business, for your ministry, for your venture, for your innovation. What does a good partner look like to you? What does it feel like? Because sometimes, again, we're looking on the outside and we're not looking under the covers. What type of characteristic are you looking for? And those things that really help you as you look to operate and to engage with others. Next is get quotes. We most certainly want to get quotes for others. We want to make sure, don't just ask one company and just stop there. Look at some of the preferred vendors who operate in the lane in which you need services, and then get some quotes. It does not hurt to get information. In many cases, they are more than welcome to give you a free quote. If they have to come out and see your operation, come out and see what type of material or what type of device or what type of supplies you need, I think that is great, so that there is awareness of what you need and your expectation, and so that they have a clear understanding as they facilitate the contract with you. So you want to make sure that the vendor also provides you with quality service, right? As you get quotes, what kind of quality level are you looking for? Sometimes we talked about last week, tier levels of supply, right? As my demand increase, I'm looking for a higher supply. What's my cost base when I have to pivot to a larger supply from you? I want to understand that now, because you don't want people to get you in the deal and then your business starts to grow and they double the price on you. You want to think for the future. So while you're yet starting here and you feel like it's going to be a good relationship that you can continue forward, one of the best things you can do is think outside of the box. Say, what happens when I grow in this space? What other products or services do you provide? Even though I'm hiring you for this, what else do you do? And so that is a great tool as you evaluate going into contracts, is to think from a different angle. Come from a different place. Sometimes they may not be able to do everything you need, but it also helps you to be willing to negotiate. Come from a different angle. Okay, well, here's something that while you may not be able to do this, I need this particular one, and you're the best person in that. What kind of deal? Try and find other areas to make a better deal. Perhaps a down payment on certain areas, maybe the interest rate that you might get with this contract, maybe when your due date on making payments on it, maybe the length of repayment. So there are ways that you can think about it so that the deal always operates in a good favor. Right? You want it to be in your favor. And so you really want to talk about that when you are negotiating the contract. Good afternoon, Joseph. Glad to have you with you. have you with us. Thank you so much for joining today. I see also Lady Virgo is talking about owing bills and trying to pay those off. Most certainly, as you want to look to do that, there are different ways to do it. I've seen it where there's a structure, or you paying your smallest to your largest. And so as you pay off the smaller bills, then you can apply that additional residual funds to the next smallest bill. And then you're operating from that capacity. Another way to pay out bills is to look at the ones with the highest interest rate. So again, you can go after the one with the smallest balance and pay that first, and then apply that money to the next one. And then, or you can look at the ones with the highest interest rate, right, which is costing you the most. And so then you can try and get them down by interest rates. So pay off by interest rates will help you lower what is coming out of your pocket eventually, right? Because higher interest rate, meaning you're giving them back more for the loan that they have from you, for you using the funding that they've acquired, what you've acquired from them, and they've loaned or extended that credit to you, and your interest rate is higher. There's a higher payback for you for what you've gained. And so you can look at it from that way, either pay smallest to largest, or look at the largest interest rate and pay it off from there. Okay. Joseph talked about negotiating. It's not about getting someone or beating them. True. Negotiating is about a deep understanding of the nuances of a relationship. Read the book, Getting to a Yes. Yes, that is so good. And so one of the things that you can do is, how do I get to a yes from the relationship and with the person that I want to enter into a contract with? And again, think about it from different angles. And you're not, again, trying to mistreat anyone or take advantage. You want to come out with a healthy deal that makes sense for your business as well as the partner you're coming into. Because again, somebody will be very grudgeful and unappreciative if there's not a win-win. We're looking for a win-win. And so it's so important that you have that kind of mindset. One is also, if you are talking about establishing a relationship with a new vendor contract, talk with their customers. Ask them, and that's fair for you to do. Do you have any recommendations that are people that I can reach out to? Nowadays, because we are so electronic, feedback is very easy. Reviews are everywhere. So you can just go online. There are reviews about organizations online all the time. And again, you have to weigh that, right? Which I like most of the algorithms on a lot of the sites where you rate or give reviews. There is a algorithm that gives a basis on the level of great reviews versus negative, right? So you have to weigh that because sometimes one bad experience can just crush a person depending on how important it was. And so they may give them a 1, whereas they may have really worked well with the other 99 clients that they may have. And so you have to really look at that and evaluate some of the feedback that they are receiving because I don't want one person's opinion to diminish what might be a good deal for you. Because I found this in my own experience. There have been times that I was led to connect and operate in a capacity that others didn't do well in, but it was for me. And it worked out well. So I want to say that so that as you talk to the customers, as you talk or look at feedback, as you have evaluation or conferences with recommendations, that you also discern it and operate through the lens of what is best for me and my organization. One of the other things that you can do when you are talking with vendors and looking at going into a contract, one, don't get desperate. Don't get desperate. You don't want to feel like the Bible talks about, don't be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests made known unto God. And God hear you. He gonna bless you. And so don't get desperate, because a lot of times when we're desperate, we're quick to make a hasty decision. We're quick to sign without having evaluated on the points of the necessities. Now, I'm not trying to say we don't want to get analysis paralysis. We don't want to have analysis paralysis where you think about it so long that you never do nothing. No, we're not about that. We're not saying don't do nothing, but we want to say be wise. Be wise in our decision. Be wise in the areas that mean so much in your business. A contract is very huge. The first time I signed a contract, it was very nerve-wracking. Think about it. The first time you bought your first house or your first car, and you knew you had this large amount of liability for the very first time, it could appear to be daunting. But when you have already set your mind, when you've done the research, when you operate in wisdom, when you level set and you know where you're working from, what Bianca Thank you, Bianca, being online. And I think it was Lady Virgo who was talking about having the awareness of where things are in your life as far as your budget and what you can afford. When you do that, then you know you're making a sound decision, right? And so when you have a sound decision, then you can make sure you have a right decision. And so that's very helpful. Don't do anything from desperation. I'll never forget my godfather. He was ministering. He talked about it. Anybody who tell you got to do it right now, you have to make your decision right now. Walk away, because most often there's something better. Why is there such a sense of urgency when your product is still here? When your reputation stands on its own, when you have the ability to provide this again, right? Why do I have to make such a hasty or rapid decision if it is something that you know is good, right? And even as a business owner, you have to be okay with people saying, that's good, but I don't think so right now. Do it with a smile. Say that's okay. You have to be able to take a no. Oh my goodness. I know we're talking about negotiating contracts, but even for you, you might find a contractor or a vendor or some other person that you really wanted to work with, and they give you a no. Don't leave that conversation with negativity. I want to encourage you, because you don't know how God is going to bring that circle back around. That may be the very person, just the wrong season. That may be the very company, just not for that particular purpose. And so when you leave right, you can always return. And so graciously accept a no, and also present yourself to the capability that when things are right, I want you to remember me, because I like your product. I like your service. I like what I have heard about you. I would like the opportunity to engage in business with you. And I just believe that there's going to be a time when we do so together, and it's a mutual win-win. And that's how you can leave it. Because we're excited sometimes and we get so upset when we get a no. Know this, that a no can be not yet or not now. And then it can also be something better. And so just because one door closes, a lot of other doors will open. I always tell myself, you only need the right yes. You don't need all of them. You just need the right one. And when you get the right one, it's going to work for you. It is going to benefit you. It's going to advance you. You will surely prosper in it. And so you have to have that kind of dexterity, that due diligence, that ability to rebound and to go back into what you were called to do. You may have a moment or two, I've had it myself, where you may feel as though, that was a big loss. I really felt like that was for me. But then that is where you decide within yourself that you pray about it, and you know that you're on the right track. And when you're on the right track, the Lord will guide your footsteps, and then he will make all grace to abound toward you. I hope that today you have gained and gleaned from this afternoon's conversation on our Money Monday as we finalize and complete our negotiating contracts. Just some great tips that you can consider as you look forward to creating that next new partnership, one that will be a win-win and will operate for your good. So again, we thank you for joining us on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. I'm an executive pastor, Tawana Grant. Thank you for joining us on today. Peace and blessings to you.